80% of real estate agents are giving up within the first 12 months in business. You see, one of the biggest problems is that most agents believe that real estate, it's easy money until they have to find and convert business. Last week, I was invited to a State Talk podcast, and the focus was on new agents and what they should be doing in order to avoid to be part of the stats and give up within their first year in the business. I have for you some of these insights of this interview where I shared the exact steps I guide my own daughter as a new real estate agent. I'm going to break down for you what it takes and make sure that if you're struggling or you're not where you want to be right now, that doesn't have to be the case any longer. So let's dive right in.
The first question for you, tell us a little bit more about yourself, your journey, how you studied in real estate, and what you really inspired you to get into real estate.
I immigrated from Romania in 2007. I moved to Canada and I Googled, what can I do here? Life of an immigrant. So when I moved here, everything that I've done back home, I actually needed to kind of put on the side and start from scratch. And I Googled. I had a 5-year-old daughter and I had to figure out how to accommodate her school. I had no family here. As I'm Googling and I'm taking personality tests, real estate keeps coming back and coming back. Real estate is a huge equalizer and it takes people out of poverty if it's done right. I loved the fact that it was something that was truly based on my capacities and the time that I would put in and the effort. And I really didn't want to have a boss. For anyone that's looking to get into this business, know that there's a way to conduct this business that is not only accommodates your time, but it's very profitable. It's actually predictable. It's scalable. And it's really a life-changing career. This will be my advice to anyone that's looking to get into real estate. Emotional regulation is the #1 skill that you need to develop. Everybody's kind of jumping into, where do I get my first transaction? Where do I do this? Where do I do that? They're hungry for money. It's great. But if you don't actually spend the most amount of time into your emotional regulation, the chances are that you're going to have 1 step forward, 2 back. It's a very demanding business where your emotional state and your mental state takes a toll on everything else. You have to deal with rejection, with what you just mentioned earlier, that you don't actually have a steady income. You have to deal with failure. You have to deal with the whole concept of accommodating clients and their needs and their personalities. So the chances are that if you're not paying attention to your emotional regulation, you're not going to prospect, you're not going to handle objections properly, but most likely you're going to give up pretty fast because of being emotionally drained. And after that, I would say, don't learn from your mistakes because they're expensive mistakes. Make sure that you hire a coach, go into seminars, webinars, communities, whatever you can find, read books, podcasts like this, anything that will help you to shorten the period of time between you making mistakes and learning. My third one will be learn what to say. I think the #1 reason for people in real estate not succeeding, besides emotional regulation, is the fact that they don't know what to say. When you know what to say, you're very confident to pick up the phone. You're very confident to go into an event and pick up clients. You're very confident to speak on social media. You're very confident in general of doing anything. And when you learn what to say, the chances are that you're going to convert, which means that you're going to develop more skills and you're going to have confidence to go for more clients. I see this stigma around learning what to say as being scripted, as being not being yourself, when in fact is actually becoming a professional that you should be when somebody's hiring you and is trusting you with their best equity. Becoming a listing agent is mandatory if you want to build a sustainable and predictable business. So developing the skills of being a listing agent it's really important. There's a couple of others that they're very important they're not treating their business like a business. Implement systems, processes. You're going to learn to hire people. Another part that I see people doing a lot in this business is that they don't understand that this business can be done in multiple different ways. There's multiple ways of generating business, and I think you have to understand yourself first as a personality, how you work, what's your personality style, and what will best suit you in this business, because the chances are that you're not going to be consistent in the long run to prospect in a method that it's not comfortable to you. And also very important, build your business with the end in mind. So if you don't have an end in mind, in the sense of what's always the next step of expansion, what's the next step of growth, what's the next step of exit, what's my exit strategy from the day one that you got your license, the chances are that when you're ready for each expansion, you're on a delay. And that delay is pretty painful. You're accustomed to certain way of doing business, which means that it's going to delay even more. So build your business always with the end in mind.
How do you actually get started with coaching, and how do you find the right person for yourself?
I started coaching from, I think, my third or my fourth month when I was in real estate. And I attribute my success to my coaches, because accountability and learning from others, it shortens your time of learning so much. How you find a good coach, it's a good question. I think there's many things to take in consideration when hiring someone. I think it has to do a lot of learning a little bit more about them as people, to feel comfortable that you trust them in the process, that they will take you where you want to be. Now, here's one thing that I need to mention here. Although I've been in production my entire career, been 1% in Toronto, I've been 5% in Canada, and all of that accolades, I do not actually believe that a good coach or a team leader has the best skills to coach or train just because they were good in sales. I truly believe that. And I know it's a very controversial matter. And some people say if they haven't done it, that means that they're not going to be able to teach you. And I don't agree with that. And if you look at a lot of sports out there that are amazing coaches that are training the top of the top, just going to take as an example the tennis world, where you see the same coach moving from coaching a woman versus a man, and they're coaching different styles or different personality styles, and yet these people over and over succeed and become number one. And these coaches never been number one, and they've never even played professional. It just gives you a feedback onto what actually makes a good coach. And I think that's where it's very important to understand yourself first, to understand what kind of coach would motivate me to get what I want to be. Obviously, the skills will have to be there for a coach, so you will want to trust that they know what they're coaching on. But it's more than that. It's that connection that you have with the coach, that they have a way of speaking, a way of motivating that allows you for you to achieve what you want. And to answer your questions, yes, I do have an online course, which is pre-recorded, that anybody can purchase. And I have a one-on-one program with agents that it's a 1-year program.
I agree, as you said, the best salespeople might not be the best coaches sometimes, right? And it's important to find somebody who would be that good fit for you. How do you maintain that relationship with people? Because I know when you're in the business for so long, you have so many people. I'm sure you have like 1,000 people in your database and your CRM that you need to connect with maybe on a daily basis. So tell me a little bit more about the process, what you do, how do you reconnect with people?
Automation.
Okay.
It's a word that agents don't seem to know it very well, and they're surprised. A percentage of transactions that are closing in 3 months from the time you met someone is very short. And then you have the ones that need to be nurtured over a long period of time in order to convert them. And in that period of time, you need to stay top of the mind to them that you are their real estate agents. And how do you do that? Rely on that you're going to see them and you're going to talk to them on the phone. But if that's the only way that you're going to do it, you're going to fall short, because you can't follow up and you can't talk to everyone at the same time. And ideally would be for people to have a certain amount of touches per month or per week or per year or per quarter. And the chances are that as your business grows, you're not going to be able to support that. So automation is so important. So creating your funnels, your buyer funnel, your seller funnel, and these funnels to have landing pages, and these landing pages to collect emails, and these emails go into workflow, and the workflow delivers. And what do they deliver? Right now, you have CRMs that deliver text messages, voicemail, video, everything that you can imagine right now with the technology from today, you can deliver to them on an automated basis, on a weekly basis, to stay top of mind. The most classical one and probably most underrated right now, it's email. And email campaigns are converting at an incredible pace. Emails are actually right now coming back as more being opened by consumers than social media, because social media, they go for entertainment. Emails, they go for news and things that they're interested in consuming. I'm amazed a lot of times when agents are telling me that they don't have automations in place, and some of them don't have CRMs at all, or they don't have email marketing campaigns set up or funnels for buyers and sellers. So the way that you can stay in touch with them, it's basically implement automation as fast as you can, be in front of them as many times as humanly possible is. If you got to a point where your database is really large, hire an ISA that provides also the human relation where they actually are being called besides all of the other things. And in the end, you are top of mind for all of these people, and you can grow and maintain these relationships and their referrals.
When we talk about the top funnel, right? So before you actually follow up with people, you need to actually find those people. So what do you see working right now the best?
So I think it's very important to understand what kind of business you want to develop, because there's business that it's based on marketing, it's business that's based on prospecting, it's business that is more buyer oriented or is seller oriented. So I think defining where you're going to spend your time and what kind of business you're going to have is very important. In my particular case, when I was in real estate and when I started, social media was not a platform that generated that much buyers and sellers. It became later on, but to me, it was approaching for sell by owners, expires, and dial circling and farming. And that, in a way, was a blessing in disguise, because it allowed me to actually become a listing agent and build a very sustainable business over time. And with the help of social media and all the other platforms and all the other technology and automation and systems and processes, it really allows you to scale really, really high. Again, I would, if anybody right now is listening and they don't have a niche or they don't have a business that runs like a business, they will have to think, what kind of business do I want to run? Is it based on marketing? Is it based on prospecting? There's people that do very well on prospecting and they pick up the phone. There's people that do very well on marketing, which means they put a lot of time in social media. And there's people that do a little bit of all of them. I would say, to me, that one should be your main focus, and then you should have another two that they're congruent with your main one. But the main one will determine if you're working with sellers or buyers predominantly.
Have any routines right now that you follow like on a daily basis that allow you to maintain that consistency in business, but also hopefully have a really good balanced personal life as well?
I feel like there's two questions there, and here's my take on the first one. What's my routine and what's always my advice? The first part of the day should be the money-making activity. The second part of the day is the servicing, and the rest is marketing and admin. If you keep always your first part of the day, the money-making activity, whatever it is, in the way that you pick to prospect or generate leads, everything else could be a chaos and you make a lot of money. But usually agents go the other way around. They start with admin, then they go into marketing, then they go into servicing, and very rarely consider the prospecting or the generating lead process. So that would be my flow in any expansion that I ever done, from being a solo agent to a team leader to going to coaching to building a community. The morning is for moving the business forward, and the afternoon service your business. Now, when it comes to the balance between life and work, here's my take on that. Every business, again, if you treat it as a business, if you're treating it as a job, you're probably not going to have that problem. But if you treat this as a business, forget about a balance between life and work. A business, in my view, has 3 phases. The phase of getting inspired to want to do something. In that phase, you may have a life and work balance. Then you have the growth period. In that period of your business, you don't have life and work balance. In the growth period of your business, there's no such thing as balance, because you will have to put in the time and energy that is required to make it happen, which is above the average, above good. It's at the level of excellence to be able to make it move. So if you're thinking that you want a consistent period of time in your life where it's always balanced, don't come in real estate. But if you're understanding that you're going to have the excitement where you're going to have a certain element of balance, then you're going to have the growth when you're going to be no balance, and then you're going to have the maintenance when, again, it's a balance, because it's a time where things are going smooth. You're at the certain stage, you're at a certain level, and the balance is there with your business, with your family, with everything. That's fine. But guess what? The whole point of a business is to get again back in the same circle where you get inspired to expand, which means you're going to have a little bit less balance with your family in order to search, soul searching, searching for new, understanding what skills you need. You learn skills, and then you have the growth again. So it's a continuous circle. As an entrepreneur, you have to understand this circle, and you have to feel comfortable with it. And there's also one thing that I always said: very strong entrepreneurs have very supportive spouses or partners, or no partners at all, because driven entrepreneurial people need that kind of support, and it's a burden on their partners. And I'm very, very lucky to have an incredible partner that understands that, but we don't give them enough credit that how important it is to have that kind of support, and to go constantly to the ups and downs of the cycles, and for them to be supportive, and knowing that there's going to be times where things are going to be roses and times when things are going to be anxious.
Things are going with you for social media, which you're currently doing.
You asked me a couple of questions in one, and I'll try to answer separately. And I think there's one thing that I want to touch on when it comes to social media, because it's not the solution of all of our problem when it comes to real estate. So one of the things that I notice about social media and real estate agents is that they don't understand the difference between marketing, prospecting, sales, advertising. And I just wanted to clarify the amazing opportunity that we have through social media. It's such a powerful, powerful tool, social media. But I'm going to just kind of give you a little bit of a story so people can actually understand what I mean by these differences. So what is in fact marketing? For example, you have a circus that comes into town, and you put a sign on the entrance of the town, that's advertising. If you put the sign on the back of an elephant and you walk around the town, that's promotion. If you take the elephant and you put it in the mayor's garden and the local business takes a picture of it and makes a story, that's publicity. And if you get to have the mayor to participate in that and you get a positive reaction, that's public relationship. And if you take the time to speak with people as you're doing that and you tell them about other things that they're going to get if they come to the circus and you answer their questions, that's the sales part. And if you decide to plan all of that, that's marketing. So the reason I'm saying that is that if you're looking at real estate agents that either put content out there, either it's in the form of video or just posts, their limitation is up to advertising. The other steps are not happening. When you think of social media as the most powerful marketing platform since the telephone. Like, it's the best thing that happened to us in sales. But if you're using it solo for the purpose of advertising, you're probably not going to get the result that you want. And for sure, it does not cover for prospecting and it does not cover for sales. So when it comes to social media, for me, it's absolutely mandatory that if I put anything out there, it has an intention that covers all of these steps that I'm talking about, because I'm using it as a marketing, not as advertising. Social media, on the other hand, and is something that I really, really want people to be aware of. It's a marketing platform where these big giant companies, they decided for all of us to kind of play together. But keep in mind that they're always going to push and favorize the ads. That's the reality. Because right now they created these platforms for the purpose of making money. The fact that millions and billions of people are playing on these platforms is one thing, but they're going to always favorize the people that actually pay for ads. So you have to understand what you're playing with. But most agents don't understand what they're playing with. And I'm not saying, go and buy ads. Far from me. I pay for ads only 1 month in my entire career. I'm a big fan of, creating a lot of social media that will generate free leads. But I'm just saying that once you're aware of what you're playing with, you know the game better and you know how to play the game better. So that's my take on social media. It's not necessarily a prospecting platform. It's not a sales platform because we're selling a service. It's a marketing platform. And if you do it right, it's a very powerful one.
Estimate return on investment from social media.
100%. And I think in anything that you do in this business, like I mentioned to you, treat this as a business, which means you're going to have SOPs, KPIs for absolutely everything you do. You should not be doing anything. You cannot grow what you don't track, period. I have KPIs for everything. Nothing happens in this business without knowing that there's a return on investment. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. Social media is a great platform that should be used by anyone, and we can get to the extent of using ChatGPT and all of the things that the technology brings, but it does not take away or replace your sales skills, your prospecting methods, your automation. When you get these leads, to actually put them in a place where they're continuing to be nurtured, and everything else that comes with this business, between admin and everything else, you have to do it all. And that's why I said, start expanding before you're ready. Start thinking of an assistant, start thinking of becoming a listing agent, start thinking of your retirement from the day one, because you're going to have a different mentality of the way you approach the business, but you're also going to implement systems and processes that are ahead of where you are, but accommodating a higher state, a higher position within your business, which if you get too comfortable to the one that you're in right now, it's hard. Like, I'm just giving you a simple example, such as the CRM. If you don't have a CRM, then by the time you're ready to have one, you already have some mannerism and some way of conducting business that it's not really working. If you're not used to use KPIs, then it's going to be hard for you to implement it. If you don't have SOPs, that means you're going to miss some steps when you're solo, but let's say you're so amazing that you don't, but it's going to be very hard to actually hire an assistant or an ISA or a buyer agent or a showing agent. All of these things are not allowing you to expand as fast as you should. So actually conducting this at the next level, using the systems, using the people at the next level that you're in, it actually allows you to conduct your business in a way that it's way more profitable.
How niche do you think you should really go?
So here's the thing, when it comes to niching or finding, narrowing down too much, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of narrowing too much, but my first niche is location. It's so important that you narrow down a location that you're willing to travel to and that you're willing to sell or buy homes. And if you do become niche for sellers, it's even more important to niche down even more, to the point that you talk a lot about your local events, your local, anything that you can imagine, volunteering, anything positive or negative, or things that people should be aware. Everything that happens, you become the mayor of that neighborhood. And that's when people are going to consider you the specialist of that neighborhood. So if you're asking me, that's my first niche, because I don't think I would like to, me personally, but I've seen people niching down to the point that they're only working with first-time buyers. I would say don't limit yourself that narrow, but limit yourself on location. Decide if you're working predominantly with buyers or sellers, because you get people very confused. People will get confused of why they are on your platform if you're kind of all over the place. And there's one thing that you need to understand as a consumer. We're not advertising lipsticks, which means that consumers will get lipsticks all the time. It's not like you buy one lipstick and you're done, or dresses, whatever it is that you're selling. These are consumables that people will buy all the time. Now, when you're selling a service that people need in average every 7 years, the chances are that you need to keep them on your platform, and any platform for that matter, during the 7 years that are not consuming your content specifically just for buying or selling. So when you start to talk about businesses, restaurants, events, schools, anything that has to do with that neighborhood, then you become the specialist and people will enjoy your content, and they still keep you top of mind as a real estate agent based on your videos about ice cream. You know what I mean? So there's a certain element of entertainment that still has to come in place to support these consumers in a very long period of time that they will actually need your services. So to me, that's very, very important. You have certain content that is directed to the people that do business now, and you have certain content that is maintenance content, basically, I would call it, that you will have to provide value in different ways with collateral businesses that have to do with homes, with families, with growth, with neighborhoods, with whatever it is. And it's pretty large if you think about it, of what real estate agents can actually talk about a neighborhood, between repairs to events to everything, to daycares to there's so many things, discounts. I can't get enough of the things that you could actually provide and become the news anchor of that neighborhood on every single possible level for people to consider you the specialist, but yet you're still very narrow, you know what I mean, on the consumer profile, but you have a lot to offer.
One piece of advice for agents, for new agents right now.
I think I'm going to repeat this until I get blue in my face. Emotional regulation is number one. Do not underestimate your emotional regulation. If you ask me to pick one, it's always going to be that. Always, always. And after that, I would say, you know, just pick a tribe that will help you to do things much, much faster if you're a new agent. There's many, many ways. You know, you can get a coach, but you can get a team leader that you can trust and you know that they're going to deliver value to you. You can get a community. You can spend your time in reading a lot.
On emotional regulation, so what would that look like for somebody who doesn't know what to do with that?
Emotional regulation has many, many facets, but I would just divide it in two. And one is, while you're doing what you're doing, a lot of people are in the need zone, which means that they need the money, they need this job. And for them, the things are a little bit easier. Why? Because when you don't have what to eat, you have enough motivation and you deal faster with rejection or failure and you move on. The problem is with the people that have it kind of wormish, you know, they either have a spouse that do it a little bit, you know, it's not a must anymore. It's like, I would like to, and I'm at the limit of between must and need. These are in trouble because they don't have a clear why. And when you don't have a clear why, you don't push towards aversion. And that's a big, 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 huge problem. So then you need to spend a lot of time in digging very, very deep on what would make that happen to you. I'll just give you an example. For me, I was for many years in the need zone. Like, there was no question of not making work when I needed to, you know, to pay for my daughter's daycare and to eat. But then at some point, it became more like, I want. And then you start to figure out what makes you tick, you know? It's either that you reward yourself or you really go in big purchases. For me, was always to buy real estate. And I end up buying multiple investment properties and engaging myself into having more responsibility. They become a must. So I put myself in the must position and I have no choice. I have to push whatever it was. Or I gave myself a lot of rewards, traveling a lot, getting a lot of times off, spending time with my daughter, spending time with my husband, doing things that I like, and have that drive to be able to do it and achieve them. So that's one aspect of emotional regulation. And people don't spend time there. And I can tell you that it's a huge problem. You don't spend time there, you're not going to be successful. And the other part is, how do you deal with failure? How do you deal with rejection? Because that's real estate. More no's you get, more money you make. But a lot of people have, actually most people have, which is normal. It's part of our DNA to protect us, to make us safe. So the fact that you have it there, you should have it there, because otherwise you would die. So there's nothing wrong with you to feel uncomfortable, but how do you deal with feeling uncomfortable? How do you deal with fear? How do you deal with failure? How do you deal with rejection? That's something that it takes time. And how you can deal with that is by, there's always your environment, like being into a community that supports you and it doesn't feel like you're alone. It helps tremendously. Having a coach, it allows you to have that regulation because it allows you to know, did I do something wrong? How can I get inspired? So that's that. You can read books, you can listen to podcasts, you can go to seminars, you can go to motivational events, which really, they take you all in. I go to Tony Robbins all the time and they charge me for like 6 months to a year, and then I go back and I go back. So you have to also learn about a lot about yourself and what makes you tick and what makes you and puts you back into a good state of motivation. And just so you know, as you grow, you know how they say, you know, bigger the reward, bigger the problems and the devil. So you have to understand that you need these skills to be able that as your business grows and evolves and you have bigger problems, emotions are even harder to deal with. And if you're not working on that from the day one, the chances are that every time you come to this hardship, you're going to stop. And the stops are really hard. Starting is hard. At least just slow down, but then the emotional regulation would kick in and will allow you to still go on and move. So that's why I said everything in this world, and especially at the level of entrepreneurship, is 80% here and 20% everything else. And people don't really listen. They're always hungry for what's the next automation thing. That's great. I think you should have it. If you don't have it, that's a problem. That's a big problem you have in your business. But if you're doing that and you're not doing the emotional regulation, the chances are that you just spend your money on something that you're never going to need or use, because they don't compensate for action, which is, at the end of the day, this is a numbers game of talking with people. It's a game where you need to talk with a lot of people, and either you talk through social media, but you still talk with them, or you talk by door knocking, or you talk by picking up the phone or doing an event. You still have to talk with a lot of people to know that you're in this business. So the courage that you need and the mental state you have to have at all times, knowing that you're going to talk with, most people are not going to use you, it takes a toll. So you need to know that going in this business, your number one role is to regulate your emotions so you can talk with a large number of people.